Steve Schmidt now. He is the founder of Warning Substack newsletter. Steve, I'll let you take it from there. That's a lot to fact check in a short period of time.
Well, it sure is. It is a fire hose of deceptive nonsense and incoherence that ended before you cut away with smears about Nikki Haley suggesting that she will be investigated over who knows what. But this is the flavor and the character of Donald Trump's campaign. And tonight, Donald Trump is the de facto nominee of the party. The simple fact of the matter is that Nikki Haley was beaten decisively tonight. Unfortunately for her on the schedule, South Carolina is next, her home state, where she served as governor for 8 years. Standing behind Trump is the senator from South Carolina, defeated presidential candidate Tim Scott, who is running against his home state governor. And so you have a situation where she's going to go into the wall with no place to go after South Carolina, so the race is over. And on the Democratic side, Joe Biden is the de facto nominee tonight as well. And so the race is set and the dynamic is clear. You have a presidential contest that 80% of the country doesn't want, yet here it is.
Steve, we were talking earlier with our political correspondent, Joe St. George, who was saying, you know, if Trump wins tonight, as he's expected to, which he did, then he's going to have to change his tone and create some unity and bring back some of those Republicans in that he has lost. But we just heard him repeat the big lie multiple times, and we heard his tone very much change from what we heard in Iowa.
So much for conciliation.
When you were talking about how he has moments where he has a magnanimous tone. So what are we looking at going forward? Do you think that we'll see him change again and try to bring in some of those Republicans, or is this what we're going to hear from here on out?
I think it's a mistake to talk about or speculate about Donald Trump changing his tone, or to analyze any given speech and say, well, there's 3 magnanimous sentences and there's meaning there. The meaning that matters, that animates the campaign, is what he's put at the center of it. And what's at the center of his campaign, and it is historically unique, is that it's driven by malice. It's driven against enemies of America. You hear a person who's a former president who wishes to be president again to do what Grover Cleveland is the only person who's accomplished, non-successive terms, lambasting anybody that stands in his way in a term that would have been found to be un-American by every single one of his predecessors, regardless of party. So malice, nastiness, promises of retribution and punishment. And this is the message that Republican voters, which is right now a small faction of the country, clearly are demonstrating that they want. This is the candidate that they want to be the nominee, to go up against what they have decided is the great threat, which is the deep state and 100 other conspiracies which have been driven and have accumulated in the national consciousness over the last 8 years.
Hey, Steve, I'm looking at the number on the right-hand side of the screen, the 44% of the vote that Nikki Haley did get. And we're talking realistically about an incumbent president. And the comparison that I think about is Barack Obama. Very popular among Democrats. Had he been running on the ballot, for instance, for re-election in New Hampshire, we would have expected his numbers to be somewhere in the 80s, upper 80s, 90%. So should the former president, Donald Trump, in this case, actually running as an incumbent, feel that he can celebrate those numbers, or should he be worried about the fact that 44% of his own party didn't vote for him?
Well, they understand that those people mostly like Nikki Haley, like Ron DeSantis, like Tim Scott, like everybody really except Chris Christie, is going to get in line. Strategically in this race, there's a simple thing to look at. Whomever this race is about is the person who's going to lose. And Donald Trump has thus far made the race about Joe Biden. And he's prosecuted a case against Joe Biden that has rallied the party. And so the race, if Donald Trump can help it, is going to be about Joe Biden. What the Biden campaign has to do is to make it against Trump. And so we're at a moment where there's a real fracturing in the political coalition. You see vast underperformances in polling numbers with African-American voters, with Hispanic voters, with white working-class voters for the Democratic Party, which are all part of a constituency that they need to win. At the same time, there's a real loss inside the Republican Party of voters that just simply cannot stomach Trump. But we should not be mistaken to believe that when the choice is framed in November, as it's coming, that they won't vote for the Republican candidate. There's going to be a lot of unhappy people who don't like the choice participating in the election. I mean, the thing that really, the majority political opinion right now in the country is you got 80% of people who disagree on all sorts of stuff, agree they don't like the choice they're going to get. So they're going to be unhappy voters.
Yeah, I know you talked about that in your podcast the other night, the conversation you had with Adam Kinzinger. Steve Schmidt for us tonight. We're, of course, going to check back in with you a little bit later. We'll be right back.